Uh, Energy Minister Bill Johnson needs to provide a guarantee to Western Australians that we're not going to see the sorts of dreadful power blackouts that we saw before Christmas last year. The apparent inability of Premier Coal to provide coal to the Collie Power Station takes the power supply in Western Australia down to the Australian Energy Market Operator's reserve capacity target. And given the threat that Griffin Coal faces, and in supplying power or supplying coal to Bluewater Power Station, if that power station is unable to provide power into the network, then we'll actually have a major deficit in the power supply for Western Australia. The government also needs to seriously review the fairness of the compensation scheme that they offer the public when we face power blackouts. Last Christmas, or in fact in May, we saw the hotel in Kalgoorlie suffer $12,000 loss of produce due to power blackouts, and the government offers a $120 compensation. Now, for households that are losing a bit of milk or a small amount of food in their refrigerator, that may be adequate, but for many businesses, the compensation is completely inadequate, and for people that lose medicines because of power blackouts, the compensation is completely inadequate. The government needs to have a fairer compensation system for businesses and for the members of the public affected by power blackouts. It's extremely pleasing to see there appears to have been a major breakthrough in the hunt for the person responsible for the dreadful murder in Nangara last Thursday. It appears as though the police have identified a person and arrested that person. That has been excellent work by the Western Australian Police Force. The work of the Western Australian Police Force is made all the harder by the fact that they have such a high attrition rate of police officers. In fact, since 2017, the rate at which police are leaving the police force has doubled. And those officers that are leaving are the more experienced officers. That makes the work of the police all the harder. Police Minister Papalia has made much of the fact that the government is going to increase the police force by more than 950 people. In fact, the police force has shrunk. Minister Papalia needs to, one, make sure that police feel that they should be staying in the police force and that there is good retention in the police force, and he needs to do more to attract more people to join the police force. Any questions, queries?
Well, how likely are blackouts and brownouts, do you think, now that the power station has been shut down?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a real worry in terms of what's the cause of that. Premier Coal has a contract to provide coal to the government power stations until 2030. Now, they are clearly incapable of providing the coal that's required now, hence the Collie Power Station has been shut down. I'm actually quite concerned, given the problems that Griffin appear to be experiencing, if Bluewater Power Station is going to lose coal supplies as well, that means there'll be a major deficit in power supply over the hottest part of the year.
Well, then how does the government live up to this guarantee that you're calling for, given there's no way renewables are going to fill it in the short term?
No, and look, Yancoal are a large company and have a financial capacity to provide coal, and the government needs to enforce the contract, and they need to make sure that, as much as they can also, they need to make sure that Griffin has a capacity to supply coal as well. I mean, Bluewater is a key part of our grid. The Bluewater Power Station, which is supplied from Griffin, supplies almost 10% of the electricity capacity in our network.
What about stockpiles? Shouldn't we have enough coal stockpiled to kind of cater for this?
Well, there are supposed to be stockpiles. Now, the Minister for Energy, Bill Johnson, is the Mines Minister and the Energy Minister. The real question is, how has the government let those stockpiles run down and not taken action sooner to ensure that we have adequate coal supplies? Look, it's likely that we'll have adequate supplies of energy through the next couple of months in this sort of spring part of the year. But if we have the hot weather that we had last December, then we're getting to a stage where there could be a threat to the power supply for the whole of southwest of Western Australia.
Does the government need to come clean about how much coal we actually have in the stockpile? It's very opaque.
Well, I think it is very opaque. The government needs to come clean as to what the problems are at Premier Coal. Why can't they meet their contractual requirements? I mean, Premier Coal have an exclusive contract to provide coal to the government-owned power stations that runs till 2030. So how have we got into the situation that we don't have adequate coal supplies? It appears that the minister either isn't being transparent or is asleep at the wheel.
Has this government really strong push to shut down coal from fired power in Collie, and they've accelerated that? Is that a disincentive to those companies to just keep digging?
Look, I think it would put a question mark in their mind. Collie coal is not cheap. It's difficult coal to mine, if you like, expensive coal to mine. And it's no doubt that the way the government has come forward with their announcements, that's put pressure on those producers. I mean, obviously Griffin is in serious trouble financially. I mean, Yancoal is a large company. I think they'd have financial resilience, but clearly there are some major problems at Premier Mine as well.
Do we need to start importing coal?
Well, you would know that Worsley have announced that they are considering importing coal. I mean, I think it's ridiculous when you've got billions of tonnes of coal in Collie that we'd be considering importing coal. But the other one is they're going to be importing a low-grade coal, as I understand it, if they import it, which means higher greenhouse gas emissions as well. So it's an entirely unsatisfactory situation for the state.
And are you concerned about Muja? Muja also runs on coal. How do we know?
Yeah, well, exactly. So they've announced they're replacing, they're shutting down the Collie Power Station. But that's where the minister needs to be transparent. Do we have adequate supplies of coal for Muja as well? We hear, and you'd hear the same things that I hear, we hear there are problems at Premier, there are issues with the mine plan and other things. Well, what are those things? The minister needs to come clear to the public of Western Australia, tell us what those issues are and tell us what the likelihood of power cuts over Christmas are as well.
And gas. Done anything different than shutting it down for 4 months? Is there anything is there an
Well, I mean, obviously it was alluded to before, there are supposed to be coal stockpiles that take us through difficult times. It's clear that those stockpiles must have been run down significantly. So what has the government done? In truth, it looks like the government should have taken action months ago rather than just reacting now by shutting down a power station.
And should the government be looking at popping up more gas turbines, gas stations?
Well, the Minister for Energy has indicated that the state government can get gas turbines in, but I mean, installing a gas turbine of the size that they'd need takes many months, if not a year. So that's not going to provide the security we need going through to Christmas.
Is the government be considering some kind of bailout for Yancoal if they're unable to continue?
I don't think, look, that's a matter for the government to consider, but Yancoal is a very large company and they have coal mines right across Australia. So I suspect they've got financial resilience. The government needs to enforce the contract that they have with Yancoal.
Can I just ask you about fisheries while you're there?
Yes, you can.
The consultation period is up, I believe. Do you have confidence that the government will take into consideration opposing and views that are for shutting down the demersal fishery?
Well, the government said that they consulted with the fishing industry before they made their first announcement. It's very clear that the government didn't consult with all of the industry and all of the community that are affected by their proposed fishing ban. The government has to come back with a solution that doesn't involve shutting down the fishery for 9 months of the year. The fishing industry, at least the recreational fishers, have come back and made proposals that would see a 3-month shutdown. And the government needs to listen.
Do you support that 3-month shutdown rather than the longer one proposed by the government?
Yeah, thanks, Jeff. Look, two parts to that. In the first part, the fishery needs to be managed properly, so follow the science. But absolutely, I think a 3-month shutdown has been suggested. I think is going to be critical. I mean, how do those coastal towns like Kalbarri get on, those holiday towns get on, if you shut down that fishery for 9 months? It's going to devastate the tourist industry in the southern part of the state that relies on fishers. But the second part is, I think as people have pointed out, you're going to push a whole lot of people, a whole lot of fishers north of Kalbarri, and you're going to put the fishery north of Kalbarri under enormous pressure as well. So I think the solution the government's come up with is the wrong solution.
There's also pressure on small businesses that supply fishing.
Absolutely, all of those, all the tourism businesses, the people that provide the fishers with equipment and bait and the like. Yeah, the 9-month shutdown I think is an inappropriate solution. The government needs to listen properly to those people that are going to be affected by this closure, and there's goodwill. I mean, you talk to the fishers, you talk to Recfish WA, everyone knows there needs to be better management of this fishery, but do it in a way that doesn't destroy those local communities and local businesses from Kalbarri all the way around to Hopetown.